Can everyone hear me? So, good morning, my fellow peers and candidates. My name is Annalisa Chrysostom, and I'm a fourth-year philosophy honors student here at York University. I currently serve as the president of Why You Speak Spoken Word Poetry, and I've also served 3 positions on Vandy College Council within the past 2 years: Secretary, Director of Clubs and Affiliates, and the Director of Social Cultural Affairs. As Secretary, I implemented and led Vandy College's first annual Bullying Awareness Week, and was awarded by Vandy College Council Rookie of the Year for Most Outstanding New Council Member. The Office of the Master had also awarded Outstanding Contribution to Student Life to my team and myself. As Director of Clubs and Affiliates and Director of Social Cultural, I inspired and helped create a new position, Director of Campaigns and Advocacy. I also structuralized the newly implemented Social Subcommittee, increasing student involvement significantly within the Vandy community. That year, I was again awarded Outstanding Contribution to Student Life by the Vandy Master's Office. York is my home. It is where I find a place of belonging and a place to fit in. I'm a student just like so many others around me, and more than this, I'm a York University student. I love York because it's so unique in its diversity that it provides students with so many opportunities to find a home for themselves and a sense of belonging. Students are saved by the power of human connection and the resources available to them. From community service groups, leadership retreats, protests and counseling services, to anime clubs and Quidditch teams, orientation and multicultural week. These all matter, especially since students may not be able to get them anywhere else. Students can be relieved of these deprivations as long as we work hard to provide them with a home, a safe, nourishing, inclusive environment, one that promises to take care of their needs so they can be well equipped to thrive and flourish when they must leave. When I engage in meaningful conversation with my peers, I find commonalities in the issues they address in their day-to-day life, be it within the school or universally. The top 5 of them to be most important to them are poverty, global warming, mental health, sexual assault and/or rape, and racism and protest. These are all important to them, and as such they all matter because this unique diverse community believes that. If we are to nourish all our students, we must provide them with a healthy means to expression, knowledge, support, food, and an overall healthy environment. That is what I hope to work towards with the following implementations and refinements. I hope to extend food bank hours and provide a free meal program for students in need to ensure that food is more accessible to students, and more than this, healthy food as well. Students shouldn't have to sacrifice health due to low income or poverty. I hope to provide access to peers for stress relief through group sessions and fight for more support for counseling and mental health programs. This is in hopes of relieving the students that are in need of them of long waiting lists, limitations, and lack of resources. Students should always have support accessible to them with whichever issues they are dealing with. I will fight to work towards a cleaner and more environmentally friendly campus through student jobs and initiatives, working with community groups to shed light on the seriousness of environmental issues which tend to be undermined. Lastly, I hope to provide students with greater means to self-expression by initiating forums of many kinds to increase feedback from its students and ensure their needs are met and their concerns are listened to. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Sindri Malenkov, and I'm running to be your Vice President Campaigns and Advocacy of the York Federation of Students with the team Student Action. Many of us in this room have been told that university is the next step in life and something that needs to be done in order to succeed in life. However, what we do not take into account is that every single student that attends this university has different experiences that have shaped their lives and layers of identities that encompass what they bring into our community. While being a student at York University, I faced multiple hurdles, such as not being able to afford my education, and as a result had to place my education on hold numerous amount of times. However, through conversations with many students when I was the Campaigns and Advocacy Commissioner of the York Federation of Students, I realized that I was not alone in this. I spoke to many students who shared experiences with me. It is a scary thought to be able to not know whether the person in your classroom wasn't able to eat lunch because they have enormous amount of debt to pay, or that the person falling asleep in class is sleeping because they work nights to be able to afford their education. These are the realities of students that attend our university. I've talked to them, and I am one of them. High tuition fees, high food price on campus, and lack of regulation on housing are barriers for accessible education for York students and students across Ontario. This is why we need to organize locally and why we are able to create province-wide and even national-wide changes. For example, when I was the internal and networking coordinator for the Sexual Assault Survivor Support Line here on campus, we worked for several years with the YFS and other student organizations for York University to adopt a sexual assault policy. We achieved this victory and are now in the process of ensuring that our protocols are accessible to all students on campus. It is only now that we are seeing sexual violence at a post-secondary institution being at the forefront, which has forced other institutions to create reactionary sexual assault policies. This started as a grassroots initiative with student organizations coming together and has resulted in York University being used as an example at many other campuses. As a writer of the Heartbeats That Izzat project in the resilience of facing family violence, a comic book that was recently introduced internationally, and I was also performed on New York and City Broadway and traveled throughout North America, I'm no longer a stranger to a long working day or rallying up a crowd. If elected, I will make it my mission to listen to students' concern for many students at York University, their home away from home. And I want to create spaces at York University where students are able to access their education without barriers, where no student has to decide between paying tuition fee or eating for a day. So on February 10th, 11th, 12th, and 13th, vote for student action. Thank you.
Can you hear me? Ok. Bonjour, Kiel. Je ne vais pas écrire, je veux dire, une trentaine de personnes qui sont ici, mais en tout cas. Je m'appelle Michael Wigginton et je suis le candidat du Bloc Lindennois pour VP Campaigns. Good morning, Kiel. My name is Michael Wigginton and I am the Bloc Lindennois candidate for VP Campaigns. J'aimerais vous parler ce matin du Bloc Lindennois. Ça, c'est le mouvement qui veut redonner à Linden le pouvoir que devrait lui appartenir. I know that the Bloc, a sovereigntist London organization, might not seem to be immediately relevant to your interests as Kiel students, but I'm hoping we can find a few grounds of commonality. D'abord, j'aimerais adresser le niveau actuel de bilinguisme à York University. The current level of bilingualism at York University is entirely unacceptable. We are an officially bilingual university, but the vast majority of academic services, surtout ceux qui sont basés à Kiel, sont complètement en anglais, and the Bloc finds this to be entirely unacceptable. If elected, the Bloc will put extreme pressure on the York University administration to change this and to make all services accessible in both languages so that both Anglophones and Francophones can be comfortable at this university in their native language. De plus, j'aimerais adresser une loi discriminatoire du gouvernement ontarien, une loi qui pose une menace aux cultures de plusieurs Glendennois et Glendennoises. Cette loi est paternaliste en nature et ne peut plus être tolérée, je m'excuse. I'm of course talking about the recent Ontario government decision to ban the sale of cigarettes on university campuses. Universities are institutions that are frequented by adults who are free to choose what to do with their own bodies. We do not need our government making these decisions for us. If elected, the Bloc will put pressure on the Ontario government to repeal this law and to allow us to do as we choose. Si élu, le Bloc créera une université pleine de liberté, égalité, fraternité, et même cigarettes. In conclusion, a vote for the Bloc Lindennois is a vote for campaigns and advocacy that touch the lives of Glendonites and protect Glendon's uniqueness. Si élu, je m'assurerai que vous tous comprenez d'une façon très claire que quoi qu'on dise et quoi qu'on fasse, Glendon est aujourd'hui et pour toujours une société distincte, libre et capable d'assumer son propre développement. Alors votons un bloc pour le Bloc et rendons Glendon aux Glendonnois. Thank you.
Okay, so when I think of the YFS, I think of two words: drop fees. I've been seeing that campaign year after year in different forms, but my tuition fees have just risen. So I'm thinking, like, are you guys going to bring any new campaigns? When do you guys think of drop fees? Do you guys think you should drop that campaign?
Thank you for the question. Frankly, I would love to see fees dropped, but to be honest, the YFS is an organization that, although it is elected by students, is not usually seen as having all students behind them, and thus its ability to lobby the government is greatly diminished. If we increase our democracy, if we engage students, we can be seen as a more legitimate student voice that can lobby the government better. Otherwise, the only other way I can see for the YFS to drop student fees is to simply disband itself, eliminate its levy fees, and drop the fees that way. Thank you.
Working as the Vice President Campaigns Advocacy Commissioner this year, and also volunteering with the YFS last year, I actually had the great honor of working with students one-on-one during the Hike Stops Here campaign, which is one of the new campaigns that we've been working on, and also during the Education Coalitions, having conversations with students, because I feel like as a student myself, my voice is heard by the YFS, and working with students one-on-one is the reason why we created the Holiday Action Campaign, where we dropped off 20,000 petitions that were student signed to Mundu Shukri, because in a meeting he did state that show me the petitions, and that was showed to him, and now it is in process right now. So we do feel like students are initiating these movements, and students' concerns are being heard at the forefront, and as a student myself, I am being involved and my voice is being heard. Thank you.
Woo!
I think that issue is actually very important. Obviously, people have been pressing on it, especially if you're going to promise or advocate for it. So I guess my only reply would be that I think it's really important for people to, or I guess the student government, to advocate for things that they have direct power in. I think it's great that students have like a chance for representation towards these kind of things, but in addressing whether or not there's going to be something different or something else to advocate for, I think it's important to be very honest to your students about how much power you have in actually achieving those goals. And from there, kind of advocate for things, again, that, like she said, you speak to other people and kind of see what their aims are, but also addressing certain issues that you know you can directly solve yourself or within the Federation. Thank you.
What do you guarantee will happen or change over the next year if you are elected?
Okay, so my main platform, I've already said it in my speech, but these are things I think are very tangible. So a better choice is actually one that's realistic, tangible goals that directly affect the students. So in attacking the certain, I guess, issues that I addressed in my thing, student poverty, there's two simple things that could be done. A free meal program, that's similar to your breakfast club, where you have people, like students sign up, it's void of any kind of checkup or anything to see if they're actually in low income, as long as they came out to reach for free meals. This guarantees that they actually get free meals within at least a couple times a week if they need to, in the morning, in the afternoon, or at night. This would be student run. So in doing those kind of things, you actually open up student jobs. And so from there, you actually tackle two goals. Another one would be the extension of bank hours. That's something that could easily be done, again, with student volunteers. Another thing is you want to press for better mental health and disability services, but that's very difficult to tackle, right? So in that, you want to offer, for me, I offer peer support sessions. So that's something that students actually run themselves, in which students say there's a waiting list of like a year. I know that I've been through it myself. You can wait anywhere from 6 months to a year for one professional to actually assess you. So with that, you can actually have a support system on campus that actually addresses the issue, so you don't feel like you're going through this alone by yourself, at least within that full year before you're even able to go see somebody. So I think that's something that's direct. And the last one I want to address is global warming or environmental issues. So kind of working together with the clubs here that already work towards kind of objectives, you kind of see what kind of initiatives could happen, and you want to make it student-wide, right? So one of the examples would be there's actual programs in which you can have students volunteer and go around and pick up garbage or cigarette butts, and then you exchange it for money. So in that way you actually get revenue as well as clean the campus at the same time. So these are all tangible goals, and these are all things that can be done almost immediately, and then from there you can actually work to greater objectives that I guess take more time, right, in terms of representation and how it is affected by, or how you work together with the administration. Thank you.
So some of the things that I also talked about in my points were, I want to join your students this year in lobbying for a sexual assault reporting and support center, where reporting and support should be transparent and holding the security here on campus, as well as the York administration accountable for the violence against women that's happening on this campus. Violence against women is not just happening only at York University, it's happening interculturally, intergenerationally, it's happening across campuses, and it's not being talked about. So I want to join York students in lobbying for a sexual assault report and supporting center. Another thing that I also want to talk about is more space for LGBTQ community, and really representing what's going on and creating more spaces, as well as accessible washrooms for gender-neutral washrooms. Sometimes after hours, certain buildings, the washrooms are locked. We need to hold the administration accountable for this, because everyone has a right to feel safe and take up space on this campus, because this campus is for students.
moi, je suis candidat souverainiste, donc je ne vais pas me faire élire, donc cette question n'est pas moi. But if I do somehow get elected, I promise to lobby for the interests of Glendonites, and that means more frequent shuttle buses, a bilingual YFS, and a more bilingual York. Thank you.
So we'll take one more question and we'll head towards the closing remarks.
So hello folks, how do you plan, or if you plan on engaging the international students community that is kind of isolated on residence and doesn't often get involved in a lot of the stuff going on with YFS and York?
Well, at least to talk about the Glendon International student community, our plan is to increase the bilingualism in the YFS. Most of Glendon's international students are francophones with often somewhat poor English skills and thus have very great difficulties integrating both in the YFS and in the GCSU. By increasing bilingualism and ensuring that they can speak their native language, we can greatly increase their participation.
So to answer your question, actually even in terms of food options, I can just use an example. 2 years ago, 4,000 students did do a survey in terms of their dietary restrictions, because we do understand that there's not enough representations of resident students, Glendon students, and etc. And so we actually are creating an advising committee with the food services to bring in students from residence, to bring in students on Glendon campus, to hear their voices, because we do understand that like your concern was, that resident students, Glendon students, and students that are not actually active on campus or don't know about the campaigns or existing things should be involved. So I do agree that we do want to bring forward students. So if I get elected, I would love to be a part of the conversations, continuously and constantly on the floors, different colleges, and being a part with conversations where our students are in residences at Glendon campus and even within the York community. Thank you.
So, very good question. I think that there is a little bit of a disconnect between the international students and the students that actually live here. I would say, I guess, greater support for them. So with that, you can work really closely with your colleges. Colleges are actually a great home for international students, especially because they get all their information from there that's actually forwarded from the YFS. So I would say maybe a greater initiative for YFS to actually work with their colleges and make sure that those international students are actually satisfied with their needs, because there's a wide variety of them, and so you have to kind of work, I think, or tackle it on a smaller level. With that, I think that, again, I agree with her, you should have some kind of conversations with your international students. I think that needs to be put forth a little bit more, and so with that, you at least even have some kind of dialogue as to what they believe their solution should be, rather than us kind of, because I don't understand, I'm not an international student, right, so I can't really say what kind of solutions, or I guess, yeah, solutions for them. So I guess engaging in conversation and making some kind of refinement as to the access of information, so that it's accessible to people directly from their college. Thank you.
Thank you for all the questions. So now we'll head towards the closing remarks.
In Leadership, we were asked to create a universal vision. The root of my vision was stemmed from the desire for every single individual to find their place in this world. Our exercise was to create a newspaper article that headlined an outrageous event pertaining to that vision. Mine had read, "Suicide rates dropped down to 0. Our vision was to be perceived as unrealistic, but the exercise was designed to motivate us to always move towards it. The goals were meant to be endless, and for me it gave me a reason to always keep fighting for people of every kind. I strongly believe in the students at York. I see greatness in every single one of them, and I learned through my experiences here that there are so many factors that shape one to be the person they are, but often we forget we have one thing in common: the desire to thrive and reach our full potential. I commend student leaders for fighting for something bigger than themselves, and so I think it's important we support those that wish to do the same. However, in addition, we must support those that fight themselves every day, because York may be their healthiest environment. I think our job as student leaders is to be outstanding hosts for our students in order for them to feel like home. Our job is to protect them and support them in the same way a family member would, because York is a family. And like Lilo and Stitch say, family means nobody gets left behind. And so if elected, I promise to nourish your concerns, problems, and health as if they were my own, so that everyone feels like they have a place in this world and a sense of belonging. So next week, just vote Annalisa Chrysostom for VP Campaigns and Advocacy. Thank you.
My passion comes from community, so I believe that Students United will never be defeated. On February 10th, 11th, 12th, and 13th, Vote for a team that will dedicate countless amount of hours to serve your student union. Vote for Midland Malipalan for President, Gail McFadden for Vice President Operation, myself, Sandri Malenko for Vice President Campaigns and Advocacy, Huda Al-Siraj for Vice President Equity, and Alexandria William for Vice President Campus Life and the rest of the Student Action Team. Thank you.
For my closing remark, I'd like to address the democratic deficit I'm seeing in this debate. I'm looking out at a crowd that is about the same size as the one I saw at Glendon, but I'm currently on a campus that is at least, well over 10 times the size of Glendon. This turnout is, quite frankly, pathetic. For the few non-candidates that are here, I implore you to talk to your friends, to tell them about the debates, well, there aren't anymore, but tell them about the candidates, tell them to get out and vote, and help increase the turnout. I am very disheartened by what I see here. Votez Bloc.
Thank you to all the candidates. Next, we'll head towards Vice President